Again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. Because they turned from him, the Lord handed them over to the oppressive might of the Philistines for 40 years. The land groaned beneath their heavy hand, waiting for a deliverer. In the town of Zorah lived a man named Manoah. His wife was barren and had borne no children. But one day the angel of the Lord appeared to her, bringing an impossible promise. "Behold now, you are barren, but you shall conceive and bear a son." The angel gave strict commands. She was to drink no wine or strong drink and eat nothing unclean. And to the child a sacred condition was attached. No razor was ever to come upon his head. He was to be a Nazirite, dedicated and set apart to God from the very womb. And he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. When the child was born, they named him Samson. The boy grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him deeply. When Samson was a young man, he went down to the Philistine town of Timnah, and his eyes fell upon a Philistine woman. Returning to his parents, he demanded, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." His parents grieved that he would choose a bride from their uncircumcised enemies, but they did not know that the Lord was seeking an occasion against the Philistines. As Samson journeyed back to Timnah, a young roaring lion suddenly attacked him in the vineyards. The Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. Though he had no weapon in his hands, Samson tore the lion apart as easily as one would tear a young goat. Some time later, returning for the wedding, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. Amazingly, a swarm of bees and honey were inside the dead beast. He scooped the honey into his hands, eating as he went, and shared some of the honey with his parents, but told them not where he got it. At the wedding feast, Samson offered a wager to 30 Philistine companions. He challenged them with a riddle to solve in 7 days. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. For 3 days they were baffled. Furious, they threatened Samson's new bride, saying they would burn her and her father's house unless she coaxed the answer from her husband. With tears and daily pleading, she pressed him until he finally told her the secret. She immediately betrayed him to her people. When the men answered the riddle, Samson's anger burned. "If ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle," he declared. Filled with the Spirit of the Lord, he went to Ashkelon, struck down 30 Philistine men, took their garments, and paid the wager. Enraged, he returned to his father's house, and his bride was given to his best man. When the wheat harvest came, Samson returned to visit his wife, only to find her father had given her away. Samson's wrath kindled. "This time I cannot be blamed for everything I am going to do to the Philistines," he vowed. He went out and caught 300 foxes. Tying them tail to tail in pairs, he fastened a blazing torch between each pair of tails and let them loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. The fields, the vineyards, and the olive groves went up in roaring flames. When the Philistines learned who had done this, they retaliated with brutal cruelty, burning Samson's wife and father-in-law to death. In retaliation, Samson struck them down with a great and ruthless slaughter, retreating to a cave in the rock of Etam. 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave to arrest their own deliverer, due to the Philistines going against them because of the actions of Samson, and seeking to bind him, saying, "Don't you realize the Philistines rule over us?" Samson allowed them to bind him with 2 new ropes to be handed over to the enemy, but made them swear not to kill him. As the Philistines approached him, shouting in triumph, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. The heavy new ropes became like flax that had burned in the fire, and his bonds melted from his hands. Finding the fresh jawbone of a donkey in the dirt, he reached out, grabbed it, and with it he struck down 1,000 men. Standing amidst the slain, he declared, "With the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, with the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000 men." Samson's legendary strength terrified his enemies. Once, when he visited Gaza, the Philistines surrounded the city, waiting to kill him at dawn. But Samson arose at midnight, took hold of the heavy doors of the city gate, along with the 2 posts and the iron bar, pulled them completely up from the ground, put them on his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill facing Hebron. Yet, despite his great physical strength, Samson's heart was weak. He fell deeply in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek. Her name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines came to her with a sinister offer. "Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth. We will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." Delilah began her deadly game. "Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth," she asked. 3 times Samson lied to her. He told her to bind him with 7 fresh bowstrings, then with new ropes, and then by weaving the 7 locks of his hair into a loom. And 3 times, when Delilah cried, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson," he snapped his restraints as easily as a thread of tow breaks when it touches the fire. But Delilah would not relent. She pressed him daily with her words, tormenting him, so that his soul was vexed unto death. Finally, worn down, he opened his heart entirely. "There hath not come a razor upon my head," he confessed, "for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." Delilah knew he had finally spoken the truth. She lulled him to sleep on her lap and called for a man to shave off the 7 locks of his hair. As his hair fell, his strength vanished. She cried out one last time, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson!" He awoke out of his sleep and thought, "I will go out as at other times before and shake myself free." But then comes the most tragic verse in his history. "He wist not that the Lord was departed from him." He did not realize that the Lord had left him. The Philistines seized him. They mercilessly gouged out his eyes, bound him with bronze chains, and made him a slave, grinding grain in the darkness of the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow again after it was shaven. The Philistine rulers gathered to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon and to rejoice. They chanted, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." When their hearts were merry with wine, they shouted, "Call for Samson, that he may make us sport." So they brought the blind champion out of the dungeon, forcing him to perform for them. The temple was entirely full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and upon the roof were about 3,000 people watching Samson's humiliation. Samson turned to the young servant boy leading him. "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple," he asked quietly, "so that I may lean against them." Standing in the center of his enemies, shrouded in blindness, Samson called out to the Lord one last time. "O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee. Strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once, O God, that I may at once be avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Samson wrapped his arms around the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, one with his right hand and the other with his left. "Let me die with the Philistines," he cried. With a surge of divine
strength, he bowed himself with all his might. The stone cracked, the pillars gave way, the temple collapsed in a thunderous roar, crashing down upon the rulers and all the people who were in it. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life. His brothers and his father's household came down, lifted his broken body from the rubble, and buried him in the tomb of Manoah his father. And so ended the story of Samson, the man of unparalleled strength and profound weakness, who had judged Israel for 20 years.